Good evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education. We do invite you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I believe we have someone to lead us tonight.
Mr. Helm is going to introduce our
Here we go.
student.
All right, we have a fifth grade student from C.W. Shipley, Matthew Kidweiler, is going to say the pledge for us.
Great. Matthew, please.
Matthew, would you want to come up here, please?
Come up here, and flag is over there, and you can lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Matthew, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew.
And I'm sure that hopefully you're going to get some credit in a social studies class for being here to lead us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Solstice, we have some business partners.
We do. It's always
Great.
exciting when we have local businesses in the community want to step forward in partnership with our schools. It's something they do on their own. We don't go out and twist their arms. They come forward and talk to these schools, want to partner with them, and we're always excited to have those types of businesses here. We want to recognize a couple of those partnerships tonight. We'll start out with Ritchie & Associates with Allstate Insurance. Miss Amber Ritchie's here is going to partner up with T.A. Lowry, who's represented by Miss Kristen Martin, principal of the school. So if you guys go up here and have a seat, please. We'll do the formal signing here.
Somebody's happy.
Miss Martin brought all her little helpers with her, and they're excited to hear Mom's up there working.
Thank you for signing with our schools, and tell us a little bit about either your existing or planned relationship.
Existing, I helped out with the back to school night with T.A. Lowry, which was an amazing experience to get to see these kids so excited about heading back to school in a great school, and meet the local families. And also had the opportunity to meet the guidance counselor there, Bridget, who I'll be doing some Candy Cane Express work with the local parents.
Great. Great. Thank you very much.
Very excited to have you on board.
Thank you. We appreciate your involvement in our community and our schools.
You're most welcome. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to play a little bit of musical chairs here because we got TA signing with our next partner too. So Mr. Martin, stay there, and I'd like to have come up Mr. Brian Bradford from Roy Rogers Restaurant, who also wants to partner with TA Lowry. Mr. Brian Bradford.
Welcome, Brian.
Hello.
So I understand that you're going to be providing free lunches to our students at TA Lowry. That's outstanding.
No, but some things that we've done so far is again, we were at their back to school night as well, and it was great just getting to see all the families coming in and just checking out the school at the beginning of the year. And it was actually interesting because there was two families that I met that came a long way this year. So we met one family that moved in probably just about a month or so ago from Vermont, and another one that came all the way from San Diego.
Great.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So both of them kind of were just moved in just probably like a month or so before school started. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see that.
And we already have events scheduled.
Yeah, we have
Roy Rogers.
we have a spirit night set up so far. That's going to be the 29th of October, and they're going to be encouraged to wear their costumes for Halloween. So they're going to come in, just kind of have like a school spirit night. Going to have a nice family-oriented time, and just all around going to be a great partnership.
Good.
We're also looking to do some like student incentives type of stuff too, like good attendance, rewards and stuff like that. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know that those will be well received by the students. So,
Sure.
and they'll help a lot in the school. So,
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for your involvement, engagement. We look forward
Yeah.
to working with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Mr. Sauce, do you have others?
We have one more. We're going to have Brian just hang out there for one more second. We're going to have Miss Amy Smith, who's going to represent Paige Jackson, come up. They're also going to partner up with Roy Rogers Restaurants. So we're excited to hear that partnership. And I guess you guys have already got some plans going too, right?
Yes, we are looking into also doing some spirit nights and partnering for our perfect attendance at the end of the year. And Mrs. Acock actually set this up and couldn't be here tonight. So those were the two things that we had briefly talked about. So anytime we can get a business to partner is great.
Yeah, I spoke with Miss Acock probably just a few weeks ago, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and visited her at the school, and we talked about some things that we could try to do with each other. Again, some more student incentives, some spirit nights, and just anything that either her on the school side or me on our Roy's side, just anything that we can kind of come up with to work with each other and see what we can do.
Excellent.
So far, we have not actually done anything with the school yet, but we definitely are brainstorming and want to develop that partnership.
Well, again, we appreciate your willingness, but also your openness to thinking of new ways to take this relationship.
Sure.
So, Ms. Schmidt, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for all you do in our schools.
Thank you.
And Ms. Solstice,
Yes, sir.
I think you started this by saying that these people came forward and you didn't have to twist any arms,
I
which
did
is
not do a
great.
thing. Yep.
However, you have our blessing to go twist arms.
We'll do that. Okay. All right, if you all would like to follow me, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Madam Superintendent, we have
Yes,
a
sir.
recognition.
We certainly do. The Governor Earl Ray Tomlin has issued a proclamation for September the 25th, 2015 as West Virginia School Service Personnel Day. And for those of you who've had any interaction with schools, you recognize that the service staff form an absolute integral part of our programming, from maintenance, school nutrition, custodial, instructional assistants, transportation, secretarial. There's just a myriad of folks who are often the first person a child sees when they step out the door, and the last person that they see before they get home, and who takes care of their many, many needs in between. And we would not be able to function or have the success of our school system without them. So on the 25th, we will be sending out notices to our employees, and at our principals meeting on the 17th, talking to them about ways in which they can honor their service personnel staff. And we want to thank them publicly and have the board send out this proclamation on behalf of the governor.
Excellent. So, is this something then that will come back to us for formal action, or just something that I guess the governor's already taken the action?
Yes,
and we
sir,
just
he
get
did.
to, help,
He did.
make sure that we're.
He encourages us to join him in his observance.
Well, it's not on the board for official action, I'm sure that something that we would all wholeheartedly do. So
Yes,
look
sir.
forward to whatever we have, think of to plan in our schools.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So how many service employees do we have?
Oh, we have,
I wanna
that's a
say
good question.
1,600?
600? No. How many? 12? No, we have, that's all together.
Regular,
Right, that was about 600.
probably a
One more?
little better than 6.
8?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Uh,
FTEs were probably closer to 6.
Right, great. Well, look forward to recognizing them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh,
So if we have any service personnel who've joined us tonight, I think that would be a
Yes.
good
Do we have
opportunity
any
to honor
service
them if they could stand.
Personnel here this evening, please stand. All right.
Thank you for representing, Ms. Young
And Ms. Bennett.
and Ms. Harder. Okay.
Terry may sit on the back row, but she handles a lot from the back row, so. Perfect timing. Now we have a presentation from United Way. And Madam Superintendent, I guess I would just say that it's always a pleasure to see our friends from United Way, and particularly Tiffany Lawrence, who has done so much for education for teachers and service personnel, her service in the state legislature. And we thank you for that service and your continued service to our community. So it's always a pleasure having you.
Well, thanks for having us again here to present. This time of year, we always come asking for presentation and an official endorsement, and we're here back asking the same. And I do have some packets to share with you, if I can pass those out, Ms. Harner. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, say hi.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, if we may sit down before you
Please.
and give you a United Way update. We'll start by telling you that we have recently conducted a strategic plan with our board of directors and our CEO, Pete Mulford, who joins me tonight. And we want to tell you that we're still working with our current mission of giving, advocating, and volunteering for Jefferson, Berkeley, and Morgan counties. As you know and have heard the spiel before, we represent 35 independent nonprofit partner agencies in our community, all working under the auspice of our impact areas, which are education, income or financial stability, and health care. We have drilled down a little bit further into what those impact areas mean into our focus issues this year. And so this year will be dedicated, and hopefully for the next 3 to 5 will be dedicated to mental health, affordable housing, and children in poverty, all things that affect your constituents and students and families here in Jefferson County, and certainly in Morgan and Berkeley as well. Our updated vision is really simple. We envision an improved community that fosters hope, opportunity, and prosperity for everyone. And if you'll look in your packets, there is our campaign brochure that really speaks to that prosperity. And it looks like this. It's a 4-fold brochure. If you pull that out for a second, that's really demonstrated by the numbers that you have before you. And this year we did something a little different. They're in the form of infographics. And of course we couldn't put all of our impact statements in there, but this is just a sampling of what donor dollars have really done for Jefferson, Berkeley, and Morgan counties. You'll see that several of those initiatives and or partner agency programs benefit Jefferson County students. Specifically, if I can speak to the Eastern Panhandle Care Clinic, the Get Well, Live Well program provided holistic care to 140 high-risk patients here in Jefferson County, many of whom have grandchildren or children in the school system. Certainly, you'll also see that our Warming Hands and Hearts Utility Assistance Program ran in conjunction with DHHR, provides assistance for 49 families over the course of the year, totaling $6,800. Many of our Jefferson County residents every single year work through that utility assistance program to keep the electric and power on during the winter months. Also, our food banks benefit. We are actually kicking off United Way Week. Starting tomorrow at 7 a.m. we'll have our Day of Caring, which of course you know encompasses the mega food drive as well. And so Community Ministries tells us that we'll be keeping their doors open for another month here in Jefferson County thanks to the work of the mega food drive. We could go on and on with the impact and the level of grants that were provided through United Way dollars, but we do have a proclamation, and I'm going to turn it over to Pete Mulford for the proclamation. But we wanted to come asking with open arms that you would, again, support and ask your staffs to do the same at each school. And also maybe go one step further this year and ask the kids to participate. We've seen across the Panhandle that when students engage not only in donorship and volunteerism, they learn life skills that are far beyond just the penny drives or the bulletin boards or the little service projects that they do with us. But we would ask that we would convene with you and meet with you throughout the year. We had a great conversation with Superintendent Gibson, most recently talking about some of the test scores and advocacy work that we can do here locally. So we're willing to work, and ready to take action with you all, and we would ask that you support our proclamation, which you have before you. And I know Pete's going to do the honors.
Yeah, before I read it, I just would say thank you again for the opportunity.
Good to see you.
And certainly what a refreshing experience we had a couple weeks ago with your new teachers as we were there to join you. And, really tremendous to hear your new superintendent talk about challenging the teachers and the students to not be afraid of failure, which I think meant conversely take risks and learn and set new ground. We're setting new ground this year with our overall campaign. And again, as Tiffany said, beginning tomorrow with our 21st annual Day of Caring, and then wrapping up a week from tomorrow as we kick off our campaign for the year. We're really trying to break new ground and higher goals, higher aspirations as to how we're going to address those three areas that Tiffany mentioned. And I know within the school system and the community, you open the paper almost every day and you're reading about mental health or substance abuse issues. Certainly children in poverty are not unknown to the school system. And then the homelessness and housing situation throughout the whole Eastern Panhandle is really huge. So we're really kind of stepping out and taking the risks this year in working to begin to earmark more of our United Way philanthropy coming from the communities into those three areas. And we think we're going to be taking some bold new moves with, again, volunteers from throughout the Eastern Panhandle, all of the agencies that support services in those areas in one way or another, and particularly the school systems throughout the three-county area. As you know, Dr. Gibson, we're delighted that you are all participating with the kids this year. We're going to be doing some exciting things at your football games. So we really think this is a year to really get the whole community much more involved. And again, we appreciate being here. The proclamation is one in a series that we're asking all of our school boards, all of our jurisdictional governing bodies to proclaim, if you will, so that not only your constituents within your organizations, but the community in general realizes the value brought to the community through United Way. And I always want to stress, this is not about raising dollars for United Way. This is about running a campaign, generating volunteers, getting people to engage in their communities through any one of the 35 different nonprofit organizations we support through United Way with those dollars and with many of the community initiatives that our own volunteers are working with the others. So again, it's not about the dollars, it's about how the campaign and the community rising up in each area, and obviously with the school system being so important throughout the Panhandle, can really become a fabric of the charitable giving and philanthropy. With that said, I'd be happy to read it if you want me to read it for you, or how would you like to proceed?
While it may sound a little long, I think we'd welcome you reading it.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this is a proclamation for our community campaign of 2015-2016. As most of you know, we're in a fiscal year that overlaps both calendar years. And whereas the United Way of the Eastern Panhandle brings together businesses, labor, government agencies, community organizations, and committed individuals in a united effort to fund Jefferson, Berkeley, and Morgan County health and human service nonprofit partner agencies through its annual community campaign. And whereas United Way of the Eastern Panhandle for many years has made available this financial support and is the region's central trusted resource for donor philanthropy, and whereas United Way funds raised in the Eastern Panhandle support Eastern Panhandle organizations and nonprofits for the benefit of its citizens and the improvement of their quality of life, and is dedicated to mobilizing the community through volunteerism, advocacy, and resource development. And whereas United Way of the Eastern Panhandle creates opportunities by focusing on the three impact areas for a good life, education, note as number one, income, and health. And whereas United Way of the Eastern Panhandle's new campaign slogan, Community Strong, thanks to Tiffany and her volunteer group, Community Strong is a call to action, to give, to advocate, to volunteer, thereby building collaborative partnerships, developing strategies, and bringing together financial and human capital to address areas of need. Now therefore, we, the Jefferson County Board of Education, recognizing the significant impact that is made in benefiting the lives of our citizens through United Way's annual campaign, Day of Caring, and other initiatives, do hereby proclaim the month of September as United Way Month, and encourage all citizens to support the United Way's annual community campaign and the many local community organizations that provide invaluable services for our seniors, families, and youth in the Eastern Panhandle. Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you for allowing me to read it.
Thank you. And I suspect that, well, first, let me ask the board if any questions or
Be
comments.
happy to answer any questions. Well, the one that I usually get, just to reinforce, I think most of the board members here know, and I think Dr. Gibson does, 99% of all the funds raised stay here. And I think that's certainly a hallmark of what United Way, through our volunteers and our agencies, are all about. So we're very happy about that.
And we'll be announcing at your principals meeting on Thursday that our goal this year is $800,000 for Jefferson, Berkeley, and Morgan counties. And so
Right.
quite a lofty goal. But not only will we ask you to reach into your pockets and volunteer with us as well, but we'd ask for your support in our advocacy of those areas of interest and focus issues we'll be focusing on this year.
Well, I think all of this begins at home, and I could think of no organization better to lead that effort in our community than United Way. So we look forward to partnering with you. And I'm sure, Dr. Gibson, at that same meeting that you all were attended, pointed out that, there are many signs of need and distress, and one that we've certainly seen in the last few years in the school system is the number of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunches, the number of students who are living in what's federally defined as a homeless situation. There's no question that we have great need, and we thank you for leading our community to help address those.
Thank you.
And we look forward to working with you. Other questions or comments?
Do we have, and is it allowable in West Virginia law to have the payroll deduction? I remember.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and we have that option?
Yes. And we encourage that. Again, the greatest way of serving and supporting United Way is the individual
Right.
that is employed through payroll deduction. We get terrific corporate support as well, but it's the individual payroll support that is the hallmark of the program.
I also liked, I believe, Pete, it was your comment about reaching out to students. I think this is such a great, our students are very involved in a number of different, certainly community events, but fundraising events and other, charitable events in their schools, but a great opportunity to connect them with the local United Way so that they see both the need in their community, but also how they can help through volunteer efforts. I'm not suggesting the kids donate money, their own, but certainly through volunteering and helping to raise through fundraisers to support the local
And I would
community.
notice, I came through town tonight, our Jefferson County Teen Court is alive and well. The door was open downtown, and the room was full. So we're delighted to see that working very well.
Good. Well, I'm sure that we can get this, certainly affirm this proclamation and support the month of September, and then some.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion for that to make it official?
That's a great question. We have our parliamentarian here. Since this is not a policy issue, well, you know what? It's not a policy issue, so it's not like it's new business. I think we could absolutely entertain a motion to endorse the proclamation.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. I just need a fresh one to sign because I wrote all over mine. Madam Superintendent, our next presentation.
Yes, sir. Our next presentation is on the job appeal and analysis process for reclassification as codified under West Virginia law. And Ms. Terry Miller from Human Resources will be providing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you about this. This was quite the interesting committee that I participated in. The Job Appeals and Analysis Committee is from West Virginia Code 18A-4-8, and you can see it right there. Each county board shall review each service person's job classification annually and shall reclassify service persons as required by the job classifications. We have a standard operating procedure, 6.23. It operates and it explains how our procedures as far as how we should operate. The committee makes the recommendations to the board, and that's what we have done, put on the agenda for this evening. There's 8 members on the committee, the coordinator of HR, the facilitator of HR. There's 3 service personnel. One represents JCEA, the other one WVSSPA. And then there's another service personnel that's on it. There's a secondary principal, an elementary principal, and then legal counsel. If a service person employee seeks a reclassification, they file through the committee. They either write a letter or the letter can be initiated by their supervisor. They are required to have a letter outlining the reasons why they believe they should be reclassified. And the supervisor will then write a letter of support also listing the reasons why they feel the employee should be reclassified. And then the committee uses job descriptions and the state code definitions of the different job classifications for service personnel. Plus we discuss and we consult legal counsel, and then we make our decision. Approved reclassifications are granted. Any required upgrade in salary goes back to the date of the filing of the request for the classification. And if there are any that are denied, the employee may appeal to the Board of Ed and the Board Council. This year, last year, we actually had 12 requests. And out of the 12, there were 6 approved and 5 were denied. 1, there was no action because there was a job, he bid on a job and was transferred. So for some information for you, 1 employee moves from a grade B to a C, and that's approximately $640. Grade C to a D, $691.65, and then an E to an F, $535.05. And then there were 3 that were approved that there was no grade change. And that was it. Now, there is a new development that one of the persons that was denied has written an appeal, and Mr. Schaefer has that now, and he will begin to act on that. So that's where we are. The rest of them are on the board agenda for you to approve this evening. Any questions for me at all?
Thank you, Terry. Questions?
So moving forward per our own discussion, as an operating procedure, we will continue to pull this committee together twice per year, once in the spring and once in the fall, to look at job reclassifications and to hear any written appeals per the board's code.
So that gets into, did you have a question?
I just have a quick question. The committee that reviewed these current ones, was it a complete committee? Because as of right now, we don't have in-house legal counsel.
I sent everything to Jason Long at Dinsmore, and he was our legal counsel. Ms. Brown started the process with me, and then Jason Long took over, and I sent him all of my information, all of my letters, all of my data, and we consulted him regularly. So he was very involved in the process.
And I think your comment, I think, answers one of the questions I have, and I think, Terry, you covered this at the beginning, but So the way it currently works, I mean, an employee or the employee supervisor can make the request.
Yes, sir.
And it would go to a committee that meets twice a year?
Well, right now, we will be meeting twice a year moving
Yes.
forward.
Moving forward, okay.
Because that way, in terms of timeliness, because there's not under the West Virginia Code, you have to consider it, and if there is any change, it's backdated to when they filed it, so there's no loss to them. We could only do it a single time per year and be well within the legal
Sure.
parameters, but in the interest of timeliness and efficiency, we're going to hold
Right.
one in the spring and one in the fall.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's from just a human resource management point of view, a good policy and process for making sure that, I mean, if assignments and duties change, particularly if they change substantially, that you're paying attention to that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's one of the things legal counsel did communicate to me, that it's happening in quite a few counties in West Virginia because of the way jobs are changing and the things that people are doing are changing. And with budget cuts, people are taking on different responsibilities. So it would be a natural result that people would be asking for reclassification to their job classification.
Right.
So.
Okay, good. Other questions? Terry, thank you. That was
Thank
extremely
you.
helpful.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Superintendent, other comments?
The only comment that I would convey is that per her discussion of budget, we've begun a series of, as I've conveyed to the board, of budget presentations to all of the Jefferson County Schools staff. I am going school by school to provide a presentation overview of the current budget, all of the funding sources, what options are available to us, and we've created an electronic survey for staff to be able to give us feedback that will also include all service personnel locations, maintenance, nutrition, transportation. We'll all get the same presentation. All of those are now slated to be completed by October the 15th, at which time we will collate all of that information and bring it forth to the board in both electronic and paper format for you to be able to review it and look at the feedback from our staff as we move through the budget process.
And what is the type of feedback that this is on, like recommendations for?
Well, there are two, because this is the questionnaire contains two sections. One section is on prioritizing. It has a host of different budget areas and asks the staff to prioritize those on a scale. And then the next section of it is simply an open text section for faculty and staff to be able to make recommendations to us on the budget process. And the thought is we get everyone's feedback moving into the budget process, and then we use that to help drive some decision making, get good ideas. These are the folks who are on the ground every single day. And if there are ways for us to be more efficient with our time and our money, it's in our vested interest to get feedback from all of them and figure out the best ways that we can do that, then incorporate all of that into our budget suggestions to the board. That way, when a draft budget comes out for public review and comment and feedback, it's already been informed by 1,200 of the best and the brightest who know their business and have been running Jefferson County Schools for a long time and can give us some good feedback about ways that we can do that more efficiently and with a good focus on instruction.
Excellent. And that's up and online now.
Yes, sir, it is, and we have a school scheduled every single day from now until October the 15th.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's all.
I guess since you were discussing the budget, this might be a time to just mention briefly, I think most of us, I think you sent us this, I've seen it some in the media, and I see our CFO here, that what the state, there was an audit of the state formula, school aid formula. And was this for looking 7 years, I believe?
Beginning in 2008.
Yeah. And I guess the audit would suggest that several counties, including ours, were underfunded, and several were overfunded. It appears that the State Department of Education Office of Finance, not surprisingly, is taking some issue with the results, if not the methodology. But a quick analysis, and thank you, Ms. Marone, would suggest that we have been underfunded to the tune of $288 per student.
Yes, sir, and that actual fiscal analysis, Ms. Marone provided it to the board, but the state actually conducted that analysis. It was their actual report. It was $2.5 million over that time period, which, based on the number of students we have, they calculated out to $288 per pupil of underfunding to our school system.
Well, I suspect that...
We'll be getting a check?
I was going to say, I'll entertain a motion for, let's send an invoice.
Well, we did promptly today receive an email from the state superintendent's office, who's gotten a few calls about this, stating that although that audit did not contain within it any directives to either remove funding from school systems that had been overcompensated or provide additional funding to school systems that had been undercompensated. I feel that several boards have likely contacted them with the same information or requests.
Send them the invoice.
Welcome to West Virginia politics.
But I would
Math
think
is-
going forward, it should mean that we receive more money than might be due for this year or next year if they're doing the calculations.
Well, once again, I would point out, and I provided a copy of that report, and we can certainly put a copy on our website for folks as well. It covers 7 years. There were years within that we were underfunded.
Right.
There were years that we were overfunded. So the vast majority, $2.5 million worth more of underfunding than
Right.
overfunding.
Right.
But certainly, I can't say at this point what effect it will have on WVDE's actions moving forward in changing their formula, or adhering more closely to the formula that their own audit team says they should be following.
During everyday
Well, it
math.
seems like they would
There you go.
have to pony up on it because they have not followed, obviously, the state formula, which is part of, is set in law. It says you shall. And they did not shall.
But we can't hold our breath till we get it, I don't think.
I think it will be a
That's
point of
the problem.
contention.
Okay, any other comments? Moving on, we're, need a action on approval of minutes of the last board meeting. Yeah.
So move.
Second. Any clarifications, revisions? I guess clarifications, we can't revise. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Ms. Harner, any citizen comments? Okay. Consent agenda. Madam Superintendent?
There are no edits to the consent agenda. I would simply point out as points of clarification that there are, because of the very long time period, because of when Labor Day fell between meetings, there are two individuals who you will see on there twice because there were different personnel actions within that time. One of them is Ms. DeLima, who was approved as a sub and then subsequently approved for hire, and then Ms. Mary Kim Waddell, who was approved for a transfer, and then an opening occurred at the school she was transferred from and approved for a transfer back. So it was just simply the length of time between board meetings. So those are
And the one deletion under the ECAT list.
under the ECAT list, yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, what is that, deletion? Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I have a quick question. We have the ECAT certification, then we have homebound instructors, and then it says type the document title. What is that third list?
I don't have that for me.
What number?
I have no idea where she is.
You have the ECAT certification, and then you have the homebound instructors, and then you have a list where it has about 5 or 6 people per.
I think it might be supervisory. There is a supervisory.
It's the continuation of, okay, keep going.
I don't think she titled them, but there was a supervisory aid list. Got that title because it wasn't.
We will get that information and put the title into the final minutes. Supervisory aides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Confirmed it. Thanks.
Okay. Despite that, I would like to say that I know that particularly the Human Resources section of the consent agenda is complicated, and my compliments to the chef for a rather clean consent agenda tonight, so thank you very much.
I just have one question as well, just moving forward, just, again, I've asked about the approved, the transfer and all the different pieces on it, so somehow attaching something to it to know whether it's I guess how long ago, some positions we are refilling, some positions we are not, obviously, because we're trying to save as much money as we can. So even to show an update on that as to where we are long-term.
So perhaps have for each one of the approvals, if there was an approval, whether or not.
Like if it says approve and it was a previous place that was somebody who resigned or something.
Well, if they're new positions, the board, we have to ask you separately for a new position.
Right.
But you want a clean one-to-one of who left this and who filled it?
Right. Yeah, if that's possible.
Sure, anything's possible.
Okay, we have a motion seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Old business, we have none. Is that correct?
That's correct.
New business. Attendance policy.
And I believe that Dr. Hoff is here for the action on approval to update the attendance policy, which is not a significant change, simply changes its location within the policy, but she can explain it.
4373 has us putting interventions in place, and 2510 tells us that the homebound component of our policy needs to be found within our attendance policy. So it's simply moving it from one location to another.
Same policy, no changes.
Correct.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Huff. McCormick grant recommendations. I assume that since Dr. Gibson is new to our community, but one thing everyone learns is the great legacy of McCormick, so that she's been properly indoctrinated on this generous program. Please.
Well, I'm Suzanne Swartz. I'm the chairperson of the McCormick Grant Committee at Jefferson High School. And when I was here in May to recommend the bulk of the 15-16 grants, I also recommended on behalf of the committee that the roughly $20,000 we had remaining be available through the year for application, since not all opportunities fall within the window of the 3 weeks of April. So graciously, the board approved that. So tonight, I'm here to recommend on behalf of the committee 2 additional grants that have been submitted. Both are from the music department. The first one is vocal music, Mr. Joel Zeiler. He's our new choral director, and he requested a newer piano since the one that's presently in operation is so out of tune it can't be tuned, I don't believe. He initially applied for one of lesser value. The committee said if they need it that badly, get one of better quality. And so he has requested a Yamaha Avant Grand N1 polished ebony piano with a 5-year manufacturer warranty and a Jansen large plate piano dolly in the amount of $7,293, bench and free delivery included. And secondly, instrumental, Mr. Lynch, band director, has made application for 2 Yamaha marching mellophones for the award-winning 170-plus member marching band. And the total price for that, the mellophones, is $2,946. And if you approve these recommendations, that leaves a little better than $10,000 left to still be granted, so.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments? So this is, so we're not to the next funding cycle yet. This is for the, yeah, that's outstanding. And that wonderful band, yeah, deserves it.
Wicked, awesome.
I would, though, before we ask for a vote, Ms. Schwartz, I can't sit here and not only think about the McCormick grants, but also think about how far we've come in, I think, developing a really strong process to review and the applications. I want to thank you and the committee, but I'd also like to give a shout out to our former board member, Marlon Dunn-Lee, who served as our liaison to this committee for so long and really helped, I think, strengthen our stewardship of this program. So thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Lee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. Zeiler and Mr. Lynch, thank you.
Jefferson High ROTC.
Yes, sir. The Jefferson High ROTC military ball. And Mr. Blanc, if you have any additional information to add to this, they're simply requesting permission to hold the military ball off campus.
Because it's off-site, we're asking for board permission.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
We've done this
Yes.
a number of years.
A number
Yes,
of years.
sir.
Yes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. What's this item D?
Something I'm sure that you haven't heard before. Mr. Eversole, could you pull up very kindly? Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. You saw where I loaded that on there. The requirement based on our vote date of December 12th for the special election for the excess levy requires that the board adopt an excess levy call prior to September the 22nd. And so what you see up on the screen, and if you could scroll that up, please, sir, is the actual wording of the levy call. And we have, if you could scroll it up to the point where the budget portion is in view. All of the budget portion is in view, please. It would be helpful. Thank you so much, sir. The last 2 columns are not present on the actual levy call itself, but we thought would be very helpful for the public to be able to track the changes. One of the things that you'll note is that the last levy call was in 2010, and at that time it was $20,095,312. The amount of the levy call is not the purview of Jefferson County Schools and the board. That amount is set by the assessor's office. So the amount of this proposed 2015 levy call is $19,146,219. As you can see, that is a 4.7% decrease overall. for a total of $949,093 less in this levy call than in the levy call 5 years ago. These are the categorizations in which they've been requested and proposed that each one of those come from. Would you like me to walk through them, or how would the board like to proceed?
I think let's, yes, please proceed, and then we'll have a motion and then discussion.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the proposed 2015 levy call holds harmless West Virginia University Extension Services for Community and Schools. It proposes a 50% increase in funding for the 3 local public libraries. It proposes a 3.7% decrease of $30,000 for instructional media and technology materials for students. The school allocations, purchasing of materials and supplies and payment of overtime is proposed for a reduction of 50% by $425,000. Professional development, national certification, and teacher personnel benefits is proposed to remain untouched. And then salary assistance for teachers and service personnel that aren't covered under the state formula currently: libraries, art teachers, music, nurses, counselors, custodians, instructional assistants, stipends for coaches, bands, payment for substitutes are all covered under that categorization, and that's proposed for a 3.3% increase of $524,093.
Is that an increase?
Decrease.
Or decrease?
Decrease.
Decrease.
Decrease,
Okay.
sir.
I thought
There
it
is-
looked like a
there are
decrease.
either- the
I
only
thought you
increase
said
is-
increase, but I thought it was a decrease. Okay.
And were the state generous enough to kick in the $2.5 million they owe us, I'd be happy to make any adjustments to it.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I could not. Let me take that back.
Yeah.
And I do think this is a point worth clarifying. This means for everything C and below, those are categories that both the levy contributes to, and we have local and state funding that contribute to those categories. So there's no option to change the bottom line of that $19,146,000. But the board does have the option during the budget process to determine, while that total amount, the levy is contributing that much less to our overall budget, it is the purview of the board during the budget process to decide exactly where those cuts go.
So in other words, if we, once we get into the budget process, find that we need a little bit more in a school allocation or a little bit more in a salary assistance, we then have to decide where else in the budget we can take that out of and transfer that into that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is, that's a great way of putting it. These are simply the levy's contribution to what are already line items that we have that cover those things. And should you decide during the budget process that one of them needs bolstering from another area, it will simply require that we take it from somewhere else within our budget of state and local funding.
Okay, can we get a motion, and then we can proceed with
So moved.
questions? Okay.
Second.
Who'd like to start?
I've talked with you, and I'm very concerned over the school allocation one because that directly affects children, and I'm not sure how we're going to decrease it by 50%, but I hope we can find some other way to supplement that.
Yes, sir.
Because
Duly noted.
I'm not sure how we're going to live with that.
Yes, sir. Well, there were two sort of contributing thought processes to that. One was that that is one area. Number one, we've been focused and having heard from the board previously of placing, people before paper. In all instances, if we had to make a difficult choice between salary or positions or materials and supplies, we were going to choose salary and positions to the greatest extent possible. And also, those are arenas in which we can recognize some savings if we are able to do certain economies of scale. Working through RESA 8 for bulk purchasing and trying to do shared services. And so it was felt that that was an area where there was at least the possibility of us having some savings through shared service.
Altering some way.
Yes, sir.
Spoken like a former principal, but
Amen.
Important. I would add to what the superintendent has said. I mean, keep in mind there are two. Where is the? I guess the maintenance category is no longer directly there, is it?
No, that's a different thing. You're talking about money.
Salary assistant. It's,
You're talking
yeah.
about maintenance coming from
So,
track money.
5 years ago,
Yes, sir.
Maintenance was, Ralph, the next largest category behind salaries.
And that was removed because table gaming referendum and funding was.
Table games were subsequently approved, and we were able to then adjust and to pull money from the table games that could be spent on maintenance and some capital improvements, and redirect money that had been allocated for that in the levy to salaries and assistance for teachers and service personnel. The same can be said for some of the school allocation as well. Now,
That's what I'm hoping.
that the table games is a source of revenue for that. Now, understand, we probably don't have that slide here tonight, but the table game revenue is down 40%.
I do have that slide, but that's but I have it on my laptop. But it is down from slightly over $4 million to around 2.3, and that is prior to the opening of the new Maryland Center.
It is certainly trending even more dramatically than this.
Yes.
I talked to a friend today who keeps up with stuff like that, and he tells me that at least the crowd at Charlestown is starting to pick back up. So hopefully that's a good sign.
That would be wonderful.
Dr. Gibson, you mentioned that the assessor determines the bottom line figure, the overall figure of 19 million.
Yes.
And that is based on former commissioner an evaluation of assessed property values. So they're determining assessed property values, and we are allowed to assess at 90% or 100%? 100% of the assessed values. But so what this is telling us is that over the past 5 years, and all of us know that, but that the assessed values of the for landowners in this county has gone down, not up. Which is why we see an overall decrease in the amount of funds that are available. Now, in the category F, you project, or not project, but are recommending a 3% decrease. But we are not recommending it, we are not decreasing the current salary assistance that goes to both in the form of the supplemental checks as well as the covering the positions that are not funded, such as art teachers, music teachers, etc. So where is that cut going to come from?
Well, that is a decision we will have to make during the budget process. Currently, this fiscal year, the one that we're in right now, we still have the levy. We are receiving the income from the previous levy, and all of the expenditures in the budget go forth as they were originally planned. What this levy call conveys is that The board will have $524,093 less in that category when we set our fiscal year 16 budget. And so we'll have to make the determination. Now, that is staff is 79% of our overall budget. So there are a number of different areas within that, whether it's substitute costs, whether it's stipends, whether it's salary. There are a whole host of different places, overtime. There are a number of ways for us to be able to work through that.
And Mr. Osborne, I think the other point to make related to school allocations, hopefully, is that I think depending upon how we vote, we have a strong commitment to our local public libraries, but we also have some expectations of those libraries to serve not only the community, but to serve our schools. And hopefully they can help in some of that school allocation area, for example, with providing, as they do now, availability of books and materials through their loan program and through their through a stronger collaboration with our existing school libraries.
Yes, sir. I would certainly hope that that would be the case. And we've followed up with them and with our own media specialists about ways in which we could do that collaboratively, which they could complete purchases, which would then benefit our students based on what our needs are, and having a stronger ongoing commitment to joint purchases around those things, joint usage of materials and supplies.
On a positive note, we're probably at the bottom of the property assessments, though. So, in the levy time, I don't think that 19 will go down anymore, because that's a possibility, too. I mean, the assessments are year by year.
Yes, ma'am.
So that could creep up a little bit, too, as we go.
Yes, ma'am.
There are good signs that they're starting to build again, so that's a positive note.
And refresh my memory, if we are in a situation where it's a rising tide, what we are setting here tonight is the allocation. And so if there's more money, it is spent you spend it by the allocation that you approve tonight, correct? Or can you amend it once it's approved?
If the board seeks, it is actually in that levy call that's right up there, and I believe if the board seeks an amendment
That's right.
to that,
You can
they
amend
have
it
to
and
go
go back
to
to the state
West
for
Virginia
approval.
Department of
Right.
Education for approval.
We
for
did
those.
that when we changed the maintenance. That's right. Okay. Right. Okay.
And I would note, when you talk about the excess levy budget trend data, is this year we actually saw a 2% increase in what came in, but that's 2% from the previous drops of 14%, 5%, 4%. So it was back up to 18.9 million, and we're anticipating 19.1 moving forward, but that's a far cry from the original $20 million call. And the year before that, it was 22,985,000.
And that's something to point out, too, that it was 20 million, or supposed to be 20 million, but last year it was only 18.
Right.
So-
Actually, the $20 million levy call,
hasn't been
we
there
haven't
for
met
years.
that. We haven't met that amount in the last 5 years. And the board's judiciousness with carryover and with savings has been carrying us for that difference for some time. And part of our sense of urgency is we've reached the limits of that carryover capacity to make that gap.
Right. Sure have. Okay.
But Beth wasn't the highest almost 24 million? Not in this one, but in the previous one, it seems to me like.
Decline of 26%, 5.5 million, so. on the
Wow.
budget trend.
So, board action tonight would then set this levy. And then we send it to the state for,
We send it to both the county and the state, yes, sir?
and this would be on the ballot.
Yes, sir, word for word.
Okay.
Now, with the exception, as I noted, do you
Right.
see where I put
Well, you
increase,
put-
decrease, and percent change for your information?
Right.
What would actually be on there would be just the actual call and the dollar amount. It would not convey to the
Right,
public.
the
the-
percentages, decreases.
Right, it would not convey that, just.
Any other questions?
I would just have a comment. I mean, I obviously, you never like to try to cut anything, but considering we have almost $1 million of a shortfall, if you will, there, I think that the proposals make sense. And knowing that we have the opportunity to pull that money if we decide that we need it someplace else from somewhere else, I appreciate the flexibility, and it's at least a workable opportunity.
And we will certainly hope that both our county extension and our libraries, who have been strong partners with our schools and will continue to be so, will do everything they can to help get support for this. Other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
We anticipate an executive session regarding personnel and legal matters. Do you expect any action to be taken?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. Of course, any action to be taken will be in public session. Before we consider a motion to go into executive session, any comments or from the board? Mr. Cable?
No, not at this time, thank you.
Ms. Skinner?
The only thing I would say is we had to go to training down in Charleston.
Had to go.
Your enthusiasm is contagious, Ms. Hodge.
Well, you know, it's a long drive. No, I'm just kidding. Tiffany knows. She's made that drive
Yeah.
way more than we have.
But it was just raining, not
It was
snowing.
just
so
raining,
it's-
yes.
Oh, right.
February last year was a little more treacherous, so I can handle the rain a
Oh,
lot better than that. But anyway, I was really encouraged, although some of the training we wished could have been more productive. As I went back through my notes when I got home, I found quite a few little nuggets that, again, you would not have gotten had you not attended, number one. Number two, I was really appreciative of the tone that was, it seemed pretty evident across the board that the state as a whole is looking, just as though Jefferson County has been looking, that we need to compete not just against our state, but we have to be able to compete nationally and globally. And that we, essentially what I was gathering from all around the room and all the speakers was get your head out of the sand, and it doesn't matter if you're in the top 2% of West Virginia, good for you. When you're on the bottom, it doesn't count for much. So we all have to do our part, and I just appreciated the fact that, you know, we've been beating that drum. You know, they've been looking at testing, and they're pushing towards some more, at least national standard testing, and let's open up the conversation. And it was that part of it to me was a breath of fresh air, that you realize that around the state they're thinking many of the same things that we're thinking, and we have to be able to move forward. So that was positive.
Mr. Osborne? I would like to thank Ralph and many of the team that he just finds whenever something needs to be done in a flash, is for working on the configuration of the boardroom. We're trying to return the dais to the both, I think, the way it was historically when Gary and I joined the board, and to increase the opportunity for citizen attendance. We don't have it quite right yet. I think you're too far away, so we're going to have to try to spread this out a little bit to bring everybody a little bit closer and to get more chairs in, because obviously we had a full house tonight, but we know we will, particularly as we get into budget discussions. So but thank you all for making that happen. We'll consider a motion for executive session.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.